Learning English Podcast.
Okay, so we're diving into something pretty cool today. A bunch of English idioms, 20 of them to be exact. And these are all specifically chosen to give you a real edge in the IELTS exam.
Interesting.
We're going to kind of like unpack each of these phrases and, figure out what they really mean and, how to use them in a way that makes you sound really natural and confident in your English.
Yes. Using idioms correctly can make a huge difference in how fluent and comfortable you sound, especially in a high-stakes situation like the IELTS.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to start off focusing on idioms that you can use in the speaking section of the IELTS. Those times where you're talking one-on-one with the examiner. Like imagine you want to start off on a good foot. How do you break the ice?
Well, break the ice is all about, making things a little less tense at the start of a conversation when people, might be feeling a little awkward or formal. Now, the example we have here is telling a joke at the beginning of the IELTS speaking test. And yeah, that could work, but it's not just about any joke. It's about finding a way to connect with the examiner, show them that you're, comfortable and engaging and ready for a good chat.
Yeah, I think that's key. It's not just about being funny. It's about setting the right tone. Like maybe even just a warm greeting or a quick comment about something you both notice in the room can kind of break the ice too.
Exactly. It's about being adaptable and showing that you can, handle social situations with ease.
So after you've broken the ice, you're feeling good, the conversation's flowing, and then bam, you get a question that's totally a piece of cake for you.
Piece of cake, one of my favorites.
Right. It's just so satisfying to know something so well.
Exactly. It means something is incredibly easy, no sweat. Like in the example, I was so nervous about the test, but in the end, it was a piece of cake.
Totally. But I'm thinking you probably don't want to sound too overconfident, especially if it's something that other people might find tricky.
That's a good point. You want to come across as capable, not arrogant. So let's say you aced the vocabulary section. Maybe you would say something like, the vocabulary questions were surprisingly straightforward.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Now, what about those times when you're really pushing yourself? You're up late studying, trying to cram everything in, you're burning the midnight oil.
Ah, yes, burning the midnight oil. That one really captures the feeling of putting in those long hours, especially when you have a big deadline looming.
Yeah, like in our example, I had to burn the midnight oil to prepare for my IELTS exam. I think a lot of students can relate to that.
Absolutely. It speaks to that commitment and dedication.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about where this idiom comes from, right? Back when people used oil lamps for light, they literally had to burn oil to stay up late and work.
Makes you appreciate how much easier we have it now with electricity and all. Do you remember a specific time when you had to burn the midnight oil? What was it that kept you going?
Oh, definitely. When I was finishing my dissertation, there were nights when I felt like I was running on caffeine and willpower alone, but the thought of finally finishing that project kept me going.
I can totally relate to that. So moving on, let's talk about that moment when you're trying to explain something and you just nail it, you hit the nail on the head.
Hit the nail on the head. Yes, it's all about being absolutely correct, like pinpoint accuracy when you're trying to explain something or solve a problem. The example when you said IELTS requires consistent practice, you hit the nail on the head, shows just how spot on this idiom can be.
It's such a satisfying feeling, right? Have you had a recent experience where either you or someone else really hit the nail on the head about something? What was that like?
It really is like a light bulb moment, that sudden clarity, and you just know you've got it right. It's a great feeling.
All right, our last idiom for this speaking section is under the weather. This is a useful one when you're not feeling your best, but you don't want to make a big fuss about it.
Right, under the weather. It's a gentle way of saying you're feeling a bit sick or unwell, but you're still pushing through. Like in the example, I was feeling under the weather on the exam day, but I still did my best.
So if you're actually taking the IELTS and you're not feeling great, how would you use this phrase with the examiner?
You wouldn't want to dwell on it, of course, but you could say something like, excuse me if I seem a bit off today. I'm feeling slightly under the weather. You're acknowledging it without making it a big deal.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit now and talk about some idioms that can make your writing in the IELTS really stand out. Give it that extra sophistication.
Okay, that's good.
First up is blessing in disguise. This one's all about finding the silver lining in what seems like a bad situation.
Right, a blessing in disguise. It's the idea that something that seems negative at first can actually turn out to be a good thing in the long run. Like the example we have, failing my first IELTS attempt was a blessing in disguise because it made me study harder. It's a great way to show that you can learn from your mistakes and grow from challenges.
I think everyone has had one of those blessing in disguise moments in their life. Can you think of a time when something that seemed bad at first actually led to something positive for you?
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I didn't get into my first choice university, I was devastated at the time. But looking back, going to my second choice university actually opened up so many new opportunities and experiences that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Now let's talk about the tip of the iceberg. This one's perfect for describing situations where there's much more to the issue than meets the eye.
Yeah, the tip of the iceberg. It's like saying, hey, this is just a small part of a much bigger problem. The example we have, climate change is a serious issue and rising temperatures are just the tip of the iceberg, really illustrates how serious and complex this idiom can be.
What are some other issues where we might only be seeing the tip of the iceberg?
Oh, there are so many. You could think about things like poverty, political corruption, even something like internet addiction. There are always deeper layers to explore.
All right, our next writing idiom is in the long run. This is a great phrase for talking about the long-term effects of something.
In the long run is all about thinking ahead, considering the future consequences or benefits of something. Like, learning English might seem difficult now, but in the long run, it will open many opportunities. It shows a mature perspective.
It really emphasizes that patience and persistence are key. What are some other areas where it's important to consider the long run?
I think things like investing in your health, building meaningful relationships, even planning for retirement. These are all things where the long-term benefits are crucial.
Absolutely. Now, for something that can have both positive and negative sides, we have a double-edged sword.
Ah, yes, a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It's that idea that something can have both advantages and disadvantages, like two sides of the same coin. Take technology, for example. Technology is a double-edged sword. It makes life easier, but also creates new problems.
It's a great way to acknowledge the complexity of an issue. What are some other things you see as a double-edged sword?
Well, social media comes to mind immediately. It can connect people and provide information, but also lead to comparison and anxiety. Even something like artificial intelligence, it has amazing potential, but also some ethical concerns.
Good point. And lastly, for writing, we have spill the beans, which is all about revealing secrets, right?
Right, spill the beans means to let a secret out, often accidentally. It's a more informal idiom, so you wouldn't necessarily use it in a very serious academic essay. But in more casual writing, it can be a fun way to describe a situation where information gets revealed.
Like in the example, the government accidentally spilled the beans about their new policy before the official announcement. Have you ever accidentally spilled the beans about something?
Oh, I'm sure I have. Everyone has, right? It's usually not intentional, but it can happen.
Okay, so now let's talk about some everyday idioms that can really boost your speaking skills. These are the kind of phrases that native English speakers use all the time, so incorporating them into your conversations will make you sound more natural and fluent.
Sounds good.
First up, we have bite the bullet. This one means to face a difficult situation head-on, even if you're not thrilled about it.
Bite the bullet is all about courage and determination. Like in the example, I was nervous about the IELTS speaking test, but I had to bite the bullet and just do it. Sometimes you just have to push through the fear and get it done.
Do you have any personal experiences with biting the bullet?
Oh, definitely. I remember when I had to give my first big presentation at work, I was terrified, but I knew I had to bite the bullet and just go for it.
Next, we have jump on the bandwagon. This one describes following a trend, often without much thought or consideration.
Jump on the bandwagon is all about going with the flow, doing what everyone else is doing. Like in the example, many students are jumping on the bandwagon by using AI to study for IELTS.
What are some trends you've seen people jump on the bandwagon for lately?
Oh, there's so many. From fashion trends to social media challenges, new diets, you name it. People are always eager to try the latest thing.
Okay, our next idiom is pull someone's leg. This one's all about having a bit of fun and teasing someone.
Pull someone's leg is all about playful teasing, a harmless joke. Like, I thought my teacher was serious, but he was just pulling my leg.
It's important to be able to recognize when someone is pulling your leg so you don't take things too seriously.
Exactly. It's all in good fun.
Now, for someone who's a real hard worker, who always goes above and beyond, we have go the extra mile.
Go the extra mile is about putting in that extra effort, exceeding expectations. Like, if you want a high IELTS score, you need to go the extra mile in your preparation.
It shows dedication and a commitment to excellence. Can you think of a time when you witnessed someone going the extra mile?
Oh, all the time, really. I see it in my students and my colleagues, even in my friends. It's inspiring to see people putting in that extra effort to achieve their goals.
Okay, our last idiom for this section is, the ball is in your court. This one is about taking responsibility and taking action.
The ball is in your court means it's your turn to make a decision or take the next step. Like, I've given you all the study materials, now the ball is in your court.
It's a clear way of saying, okay, it's up to you now.
Exactly.
All right, our final category of idioms is all about time management and productivity. These are useful phrases to have in your vocabulary, whether you're preparing for the IELTS or just navigating everyday life.
Okay, time management is key.
First up, we have the classic phrase, time flies. This one's all about how quickly time seems to pass.
Time flies is something everyone can relate to, especially when we're busy or absorbed in something we enjoy. Like, I can't believe my IELTS test is next week. Time flies.
I feel like we've all been there, especially when you're working towards a deadline. What about you? Do you feel like time flies?
Oh, absolutely. Especially these days, it seems like the weeks just fly by.
Next, we have at the 11th hour, which describes doing something at the last possible moment.
At the 11th hour is about procrastination, getting things done just under the wire. Like, I finished my IELTS essay at the 11th hour, but it turned out great.
It can be a bit risky though, right? What if something unexpected comes up?
Absolutely. It's not a strategy I would recommend. It's always better to plan ahead and avoid that last-minute stress.
Okay, our next time-related idiom is make ends meet. This one's about managing your finances, making sure you have enough money to cover your expenses.
Make ends meet is a very real phrase for many people, especially students who are juggling work and studies. It's about budgeting and being resourceful.
It's an important aspect of life that we all have to learn to deal with.
Definitely.
And then when you've worked hard all day, it's time to call it a day, which means to stop working for the day.
Call it a day is about setting boundaries and recognizing when it's time to rest and recharge. You know, even if you haven't finished everything on your to-do list, sometimes it's best to call it a day and come back fresh tomorrow.
When do you usually call it a day?
Usually when I start to feel my focus slipping or when I've accomplished a certain amount of work for the day. It's important to listen to your body and your mind.
And our final idiom for this deep dive is in no time. This one describes something happening very quickly.
In no time is a phrase that suggests speed and efficiency. Like, with the right practice, you'll improve your English in no time. It's a motivating and encouraging expression.
I like that. It gives a sense of optimism and possibility. Well, that brings us to the end of our exploration of these 20 essential English idioms for the IELTS. We've covered a lot of ground today, from idioms that can boost your speaking and writing, to those that can enrich your everyday conversations, and even help you manage your time and productivity. The key takeaway is that actively using these idioms will make your English sound more natural, fluent, and engaging.
And what's really amazing is that by incorporating these idioms into your language, you're not just learning vocabulary, you're connecting with the cultural richness of the English language.
So as you continue your English language learning journey, I encourage you to keep exploring new idioms and phrases. And for a final thought, try using just one or two of these idioms this week in your conversations or writing and see how it impacts your confidence and fluency. What other aspects of English language learning are you curious about? Keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep practicing.
You got it.
Until next time, happy learning.
Bye for now.